We're having an upscale Thanksgiving this year. Maybe you'd be more comfortable at home, my sister-in-law said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. 6 months later, I knocked on that same door. Hi, I'm your new landlord. Rent's due Friday. They didn't know my poor family owns half the real estate in town. My name is Natalie, and this is the story of how my husband's family tried to humiliate me for being poor, and how I became the person who controlled whether they had a roof over their heads. I met Daniel at a community college where we both worked. Him as an adjunct professor teaching sociology, me as a financial aid counselor. We bonded over terrible cafeteria coffee and a shared love of old movies. He was kind, funny, and refreshingly unpretentious. On our third date, he told me his family had money, but he'd chosen a different path. They don't really understand why I'm not working at the family firm, he said, shrugging. But I wanted to do something that mattered. I appreciated that. I came from a working-class background. My mother cleaned houses. My father drove a delivery truck. They'd scrimped and saved to help me get through state school. I wore thrift store clothes and budgeted every dollar. Daniel never seemed to care. He loved me for who I was. Then I met his family. The Whitmore family lived in a pristine colonial in the wealthy suburb of Millbrook, the kind of neighborhood where lawns were manicured by professionals and cars were always German. Daniel's father, Richard, ran a successful insurance company. His mother, Pamela, sat on charity boards and played tennis at the country club. His sister, Vanessa, had married into money and spent her days shopping and planning elaborate dinner parties. The first dinner was excruciating. Pamela asked where I'd gone to school. When I said State University, she said, "Oh, how practical." Richard asked what my parents did. When I told him, he nodded slowly and said, "Hard workers." That's admirable. The subtext was clear. You're beneath us, but we'll be polite about it. Vanessa was less subtle. Over dessert, she asked what I drove. A 2008 Honda Civic, I said. She wrinkled her nose. Does it still run? Daniel squeezed my hand under the table. Natalie's car is very reliable. I'm sure, Vanessa said, smiling in a way that wasn't a smile at all. After we got engaged, things got worse. Planning the wedding became a minefield of condescension. Pamela wanted us to have the reception at her country club. We wanted something smaller and more affordable. But darling, what will people think? She said to Daniel, as if I wasn't sitting right there. People will think we're getting married, Daniel replied firmly. That's what matters. Vanessa cornered me at the engagement party. Daniel could have done a lot better. He had options. I smiled tightly. And he chose me. For now, she said, walking away. The wedding was small and lovely, 50 guests, a local restaurant, no country club. Pamela cried through the ceremony, but not in a good way. Vanessa wore white. But we were happy. Daniel and I bought a modest townhouse in a middle-class neighborhood. We both worked hard, saved carefully, and built a quiet life together. We didn't have much money, but we had enough. Then came Thanksgiving. It was late October when Vanessa called Daniel. I could hear her voice through the phone, shrill and insistent. We're doing Thanksgiving at Mom and Dad's this year. Very upscale. Just immediate family and a few select friends. Daniel frowned. Okay, what time should we come? A pause. Actually, Danny, we were thinking this year might be more appropriate as a smaller gathering. Just us. Us meaning family who really understand Mom and Dad's circle. You know how it is. Daniel's face darkened. Natalie is my wife. She's family. Of course she is. But this is more of a formal event. Clients will be there. Important people. Maybe Natalie would be more comfortable staying home? No pressure. I could hear every word. My face burned. Daniel's voice went cold. If Natalie isn't invited, I'm not coming. Danny, don't be difficult. He hung up. I stood in the kitchen, gripping the counter. They uninvited me from Thanksgiving. They uninvited us, Daniel corrected. We're not going. But the damage was done. They'd made it clear. I wasn't good enough. I was too poor, too common, too embarrassing to be seen around their important people. That night, lying in bed, Daniel held me while I cried angry tears. I'm sorry, he whispered. They're snobs. They always have been. They think I'm trash. You're not. You're worth 10 of them. I wanted to believe him, but their words had burrowed under my skin. The next day, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my uncle, Lorenzo. Here's what Daniel's family didn't know about me. My last name, before I got married, was Castellano. My father's family came from Sicily in the 1950s with nothing. They worked construction, opened small businesses, and slowly, carefully bought property. My uncle Lorenzo was the success story. He'd taken the family's small real estate holdings and turned them into an empire. By the time I was in high school, Castellano Properties owned apartment buildings, commercial spaces, and dozens of rental homes throughout 3 counties. Uncle Lorenzo had offered to pay for my college. I'd refused, wanting to make it on my own. He'd offered to help with the wedding. Again, I'd refused. "Natalie, your family," he'd said. "Let me help. I want to do this myself," I'd insisted. He'd respected that. But he'd also said, "If you ever need anything, you call me." Capice? Now I needed something. "Uncle Lorenzo," I said when he answered. "Remember how you said you'd help if I ever needed it?" "Of course. What's wrong?" I told him everything. The condescension, the uninvitation, the humiliation. He was quiet for a moment. Then, "Give me their address." "Why?" "Just trust me." 3 weeks later, Uncle Lorenzo called me back. "The Whitmores are in trouble," he said. "Richard's insurance company is failing. He took out a second mortgage on the house 2 years ago to cover business debts. He's 6 months behind on payments. The bank is foreclosing." My heart stopped. "How do you know this?" "I know people." And I looked into it. "The foreclosure auction is next month." "Uncle Lorenzo, how much do you want that house, Natalie?" I didn't answer immediately. Part of me felt sick. This was Daniel's family, no matter how cruel they'd been. But another part of me, the part that had been called too poor and not good enough, wanted justice. "I don't want to hurt Daniel," I said carefully. "This isn't about hurting anyone. This is about business. The house is going to auction. Someone will buy it. That someone could be you. I can't afford. I can. Consider it a belated wedding gift. You'll be the owner on paper. I'll handle the financing. And Natalie? They'll never see it coming." I thought about Vanessa's sneer, Pamela's dismissive tone, Richard's condescending nods. "Do it," I said. The foreclosure auction happened on a gray December morning. Uncle Lorenzo sent his lawyer to bid on my behalf. The house sold for $680,000, under market value because of the rushed sale and Richard's debt. It was registered under Castellano Holdings LLC, with me listed as the managing member. The Whitmores had 30 days to vacate. But here's the thing about real estate law. New owners can offer existing occupants a rental agreement instead of eviction. I drafted the offer myself. Market rate rent, month-to-month lease, standard terms. Professional and completely legal. Then I called Daniel and told him everything. He was silent for a long time. "You bought my parents' house." "Yes." "To get back at them?" "No. To give them an option. They can rent from me, or they can leave." "But Daniel, they tried to exclude me because I'm poor. Now the poor girl they look down on is their landlord." He rubbed his face. "This is going to destroy them. They destroyed themselves. I'm just offering them a way to stay in their home." He looked at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, he started to smile. "You're terrifying," he said. "I love you." 6 months after that Thanksgiving I wasn't invited to, I drove to the Whitmores' house, my house, and knocked on the door. Pamela answered, her face drawn. She'd aged 10 years and 6 months. "Natalie," she said, surprised. "Daniel's not here." "I know. I'm here to see you." She stepped aside, confused. The house looked different, less polished, more tired. Boxes were stacked in the hallway. Richard appeared from the study. "Natalie, what's this about?" I pulled out a folder. "I'm here in my capacity as the new owner of this property. I wanted to discuss rental terms." Pamela's face went white. "What?" "I purchased this house at foreclosure auction 6 months ago. You received the eviction notice, I assume?" Richard's face turned purple. You bought our house?" "Yes, through my family's real estate company. And I'm here to offer you a rental agreement. Market rate, month to month. You can stay if you follow the terms." Vanessa appeared from the kitchen, her face twisted with rage. "This is a joke." "It's not. I'm your landlord now. Rent's due Friday. You can't do this." Vanessa shrieked. "I can, and I did. You made it very clear I wasn't good enough for your upscale Thanksgiving. You spent years treating me like I was beneath you because I came from a working-class family. But here's what you didn't know. My family built themselves up from nothing. We own property all over this region. And now we own this house." Pamela sank into a chair, her hand over her mouth. Richard's voice shook. "This is blackmail." "No, this is business. You defaulted on your mortgage. The bank foreclosed. I bought the property legally. You can rent from me, or you can find somewhere else to live. Your choice. Vanessa stepped forward, her face inches from mine. Daniel will leave you over this. Daniel knows. He's the one who encouraged me to come here today. That was only partially true. Daniel had been conflicted, but ultimately he'd said, "Do what you think is right." Vanessa's face crumpled. I set the rental agreement on the table. You have 48 hours to decide. The terms are fair. This isn't revenge, it's a business transaction. But understand this, if you sign, you follow the rules. You pay on time. You treat this property, my property, with respect. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Vanessa? Next Thanksgiving, you're welcome to come to our house. I'm sure you'll find it very comfortable. I walked out, got in my 2008 Honda Civic, which still ran perfectly, and drove home. They signed the rental agreement. Richard and Pamela moved into the smaller downstairs bedrooms. I'd converted it to a rental with conditions about property use. Vanessa and her husband found their own place within a month, unable to stomach renting from me. Over the next year, Richard slowly rebuilt his business. He paid rent on time every month, always leaving the check in the lockbox, never speaking to me directly. Pamela started volunteering at a food bank. I heard through Daniel that she'd become quieter, more thoughtful. Daniel and I hosted Thanksgiving that year. His parents came, awkward and subdued. Vanessa didn't. The dinner was tense at first. Then Richard cleared his throat. "Natalie, I owe you an apology. Several apologies. We treated you horribly because we're snobs. We thought money meant worth. You've shown more grace in this situation than we showed you in years." Pamela nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'm ashamed of how we behaved. You didn't deserve any of it." I looked at Daniel. He squeezed my hand. "I accept your apology," I said. "But understand, I didn't do this to humiliate you. I did it because I refused to be treated as less than. Your son loves me. I love him. And my family built something real through hard work. That's worth more than any country club membership." Richard nodded slowly. "You're right. And for what it's worth, you're the best thing that ever happened to Daniel." It wasn't perfect. Relationships don't heal overnight. But it was a start. 2 years later, Richard paid off his debts and bought a smaller house in a different neighborhood. I sold him back his original house at cost, no profit, just what I'd paid. He cried when I handed him the deed. Vanessa eventually apologized, too, in a stiff, awkward conversation where she admitted she'd been jealous. "You had Daniel's respect in a way I never had anyone's," she said. "I took it out on you. Uncle Lorenzo came to our house for dinner one night and winked at me. See, sometimes the best revenge is showing people exactly who they underestimated." Daniel and I still live modestly. I still drive that Honda. But now, when we visit his family, they ask me about my work, my opinions, my life. They listen, because they learned what I'd always known. Worth isn't measured in money or status. It's measured in character. And the girl they thought was too poor to sit at their table? She owned the table all along. If you've ever been looked down on for where you came from, remember this. People who judge you by your bank account are people who have nothing else to offer. Build your own empire, whatever that looks like. And when the people who doubted you come asking for help, show them grace, but never let them forget what they almost missed.